cash flow was very well answered, and I have noted down that point. And it was very much clear, very simple, that we have to prepare an Excel sheet. It's a very simple thing.
Hardik, the best part, what I felt was, I was always thinking of that, but you cleared my mind about got to capture the market.
Thank you very much, Hardik. It was a bird eye solution to an array of problems that we all foresee at this point in time. So it was really nice to get a simple, practical solution to things. And also, I agree with Harsh, there has been a mindset change after this webinar today.
All right. Okay. So I'll continue from where I started and where I left.
Yeah.
So lockdown is not the measure, in my opinion, is not the right solution for our kind of economic. If we continue this, it's not going to serve. Even if we get prepared, assuming that magic happens, we are going to have the stronger people in terms of knowing the right politicians, having the right connections, people who are able to pay a premium will get supported. But there are going to be a lot of them who will still not get supported, even if we have the health infrastructure a little bit more prepared than what we were. So what's the solution like? The solution requires business and political leadership ka partnership. Now, what I mean by that, if Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister of our country, think of it like this. You are the Prime Minister of your country, which is your factory or your office. Now, if you think of it like this, and then you get all your people to either get quarantined in your factory or office instead of work from home, and people who can really do work from home, they remain work from home, then we can control this chaos. If we cannot have this, then we cannot control this chaos. At this point, I'd like to ask you to Google up something very quickly. Google up police personnel to population ratio in India. Just Google up that and let me know what the number looks like. Police and population of India, that ratio of that. Anybody who's got, I think we should have that number by now.
192 per lakh.
192 per lakh.
Yeah.
That means
recommended is 222 per lakh.
Yeah, that's in normal scenario. Correct. Now imagine if all of these guys who are on daily wages, if all of these guys who are on average salary of 20,000-30,000 rupees, who are going to be laid off from their jobs, because obviously businesses are going to shut down, and there are going to be people who will be sustaining but will not be able to pay. All of these guys, when they come out on the streets, are we even capable of managing that kind of riot situation? We are not. And if you got to control anything, you require a middle management, right? Even in our company, as a CEO or as a director of the company, the moment you grow beyond 100, you cannot not have the second and the third layer of supervisors and managers, right? The same is the case here. We cannot just depend on the army and the policemen to control the entire population, because this is going to be the entire population. It's not going to be a sector or a group that is making nonsense happen outside. So with all of this happening, the only way to control is to add the number of monitoring units. The monitoring units technically are all of us. If we take control of the people that we employ, more or less we will be taking control of the entire country, and then do measures to live with COVID. That's the way to do it. Now, obviously, I'm not getting into the details of it. There is quite a bit of detailing that can be done, and I have answers to them. But for the fact that we have bad internet today and we have limited time, I'm not going to get into details of that. Last point that I want to make into that is associations and groups like this one. They can play a very big role. And at this point, I'm going to use the word collective wisdom and collective strength. See, today what I'm saying will not be heard because, I'm not somebody who has a large following in millions. But if I did have a large following in millions, if I was Nitin Gadkari, everybody would have listened to me. Because one statement that I make can move a lot. That's called collective strength. collective wisdom, I understand that more because I'm a consulting company. The strength of the consulting company is collective wisdom, and I'll explain why. A consultant does not have horns on his head, or he's not extra intelligent. The only difference why a consulting company can do things far faster than any other normal manager that you may recruit is simply because a consulting company in that same span of time interacts and learns from multiple businesses. So the speed at which information comes to us is far greater than a regular manager. A manager who's earning about ₹1,00,000 working for a company is working for a company in 30 days. But a consultant who's taking the same kind of salary is working for at least 4 companies in the same 30 days. He's dealing with 4 different kind of people in the same 30 days. He's dealing with 4 different kind of challenges in the same 30 days. So what he learns in the 30 days is exceptionally higher than the person who's working with one company. Leaving aside the fact that this consultant also operates with other consultants, because we have review meetings where a consultant who's doing 4 projects interacts with 10 other consultants, each one doing 4 projects. So the speed at which information comes to a consultant is significantly high, and that's the power of collective wisdom. A group like this, like I heard somebody say to Amit Bhai, that he helped him start his company. Harish, you were saying that, right? Somebody is saying that, right? Now, this is called collective wisdom put to use. So if associations and groups like this come together, then this collective wisdom will come up with a far more stronger solution than we relying on the government. The mistake that the government is doing right now is they have locked everybody on the ground levels completely. So there is no solution. There is no voice that we can say. And associations, all the matured associations, so-called matured associations, have no clue of what is happening. So these groups like this one can put to a brilliant use, because who's going to bell the cat? Nobody. It's us who's going to bell the cat. So if groups are formed like this, you can use and take help from each other to be able to come out of this situation as fast as you can. Forward this message to the political people that you know of, forward this message to the associations that you know of, but lockdown is not the solution. So that's the first one. Now with this lockdown, whenever it is lifted, right now there is a partial lift. If we don't control this, it is going to be a lockdown once again. And we will not be able to control this because we are slow learners. We are a country of people who would not move things unless it really comes to that edge where there is no option but to really move things. So we are going to be slow learners, and if that's going to happen, then the lockdown is not avoidable, because we will get our employees to come in. We will go the regular way of life without really thinking of how my factory or my workplace needs to be changed so that my people who are coming for work right now don't get infected. This a lot of people will learn only after a few people get infected and they have to shut their office down because they did not put their heads together on, okay, main kya karu? So collective wisdom put to use. If you want to know what is it that you guys can do for something like this, then there is a Facebook webinar that we had done where I had shared some of the points, 30 points that one can do to make sure that the office operations work well. Fauziya, if I can ask you to just share the link of that video, then maybe you can refer it and see if there are points that you can, those points are by no means comprehensive. So if you've done those 30 points, does not mean that there is no 31st and 32nd. There definitely are far more things that we need to think on, but this could be a starter for you. So see if you like it. Coming to the second point, what is it that people are going to do right now? In my opinion, without complicating too many things, there is only one thing that is going to get results right now, and that is action. It doesn't matter whether you go in the wrong direction actioning things or go in the right direction actioning things. But if you action, that's the only way you will know whether it is working or not working. Now, there are 3 kinds of people that I see right now. One is people who have money and think that they can sustain themselves. All of these guys are waiting. They are saying, kuch nahi hoga. When the lockdown first happened, all of my clients said, kuch nahi hoga, Hardik bhai, ek hafte mein uth jayega. Because all of them could sustain. Then the moment 31st lockdown got extended, a few of them got hyper and they called and said, "Ab kya kare?" While the rest of them who still had money to sustain, they still kept saying the same thing. Kuch nahi hoga, 15 tarikh ko khul jayega. When the 15th lockdown got extended, a little more got worried, and now everybody is worried. Kyun? Abhi sustain nahi kar paoge. So that's what I'm saying. So these people are going to wait and watch. Now, the question, if you fall under this category where you think that, oh, you know what, you have enough corpus and you will be able to sustain once the lockdown and the whole COVID situation is complete, that's when you will start thinking. Then I want to really encourage you to ask yourself two questions. How long are you going to sustain? And do you know that period is the period when COVID-19 will be gone? We are people with monkey brains. If we see an opportunity, even if we have to wait, we will jump on one opportunity, and one opportunity is okay and good enough to wipe all our wealth off. So that's one question. The second question that must be asked is, what next? If you have an X amount of money and you're slowly exhausting that to sustain, by the time you come out of the COVID situation, are you going to be left out with enough money to restart something? And if yes, then what is that something? Have you thought on it? If you haven't thought on it, you're only going to be caught by surprise that, oh, you know what? Now you can't start the business that you think you can do because you are too thin on your budget. That also will mean that you will have no reason but to struggle. So these are the two questions that one must ask if you're waiting and saying, okay, I will think, or I will start thinking only once this lockdown is over or when COVID is over as a whole. There is a second group of people who are connected to essential products and services. And I see a lot of them right now in this forum who are connected to essential products and services. Remember the story that was told to us when we were in primary school, the rabbit and tortoise story, where the rabbit takes a lead and then thinks that mere ko kuch nahi hone wala hai and settles down. Disruptions happen in a period like this, and disruptions happen where there is maximum need. So if anybody who's connected to essential services and products, and if thinks that, okay, mere ko kuch nahi hone wala hai, I am going to focus only on the way I do business right now because there's a lot of it coming, may be caught by surprise when disruptions happen, when technologies that we have not thought of will come in and suddenly that business is no more required. This has happened in the past. This can happen again. In fact, it will happen again. This is the era where the new trillionaires will be born. And where are they going to be born? They are going to be born where there is acute need. And acute need is of essential products and services. So you cannot be relaxing and not thinking on, is this going to be an evergreen situation? The second question that I have for these guys is, once COVID is gone, then what are you going to do with your capital expenditure and expansion that has happened? Will all of that be required? Because a lot of companies will expand right now because the demand is so much. So what is going to happen to that? What is going to happen to the fly-by-night players who are going to enter the market because they have nothing else to do? How are you going to fight the cost battle with them? Because all of these things are going to happen. So there is enough food for thought, even for the second kind. But, like it is said, when things are not broken, don't fix it. That does not really hold true in this situation. But a lot of people will feel it does hold true. And therefore, the second group also will wait. Then the third kind of people are the others who don't fall in the first and the second one, who are at the brink of a failure, or who are at the brink of, or who have failed already. Now, I see this group in two ways. One is that it's brilliant that if it's superb that if you failed completely and now you're closed down, because then that wipes off all the mistakes that you've done in your business model. Because this is the situation that is going to expose your leadership. It's going to expose your business model. It's going to expose how good a team you created or whether you created one. So if your business model had loopholes, they are going to come right on your face and show themselves. So it's good if the business model has failed you, because now you have an opportunity to build up again. If you're on the edge and you are going to fall off the cliff, then you really got to fall off the cliff much before it takes all your strength away trying to hang on tree, because there's no point in trying to do something that's not going to work. So it's better that you go with the new, you start thinking the new, and don't hang on to the old because it's going to die anyways. So this is what I think will happen. In short, your leadership skills are what is going to be at most required. And now I want you to take a note of these points. When I say leadership skills, what is it that you will most require? Number one, opportunity identification. This is going to be required for all the three groups. You have to identify opportunities which are coming. You have to keep your eyes, ears, nose, everything open to see and spot any change that is happening in your industry, even if you are in the essential commodity and services, because disruptions will happen. If you don't keep your eyes and ears open, you will miss that point. You'll miss the bus. The second thing that you got to that will get tested in leadership skills is risk identification, or where are all the possible risks. If you don't see a pothole, then you will probably get into one. So it's extremely important that any capital decision that you take, any firing decision that you take, yes, and I'm saying cost cutting is like, it's the most knee-jerk reaction, right? That, oh, business nahi hai to cost cut kar do. That's not the way to do it. So because if you cut cost, that cost was there in your business for some reason, right? And when that reason is going to show up, you're suddenly going to think, oh, you know what, I cut cost, and now I don't have that resource or that technology or that something which actually was running this part of my business. So identifying the right risks is also important at this point in time. And the last one is quick execution. Now, this is where this is like the epicenter of your leadership skills. How quickly you are able to execute. Now, execution requires some points under it also. The first one is called ego management. I call it ego management because it drives the point across. Ego management means I will say, "Mujhe sab kuch aata hai, main hi karega." Now that slows your speed down. If you don't know, be humble enough to accept it that you don't know, and get somebody who knows. Either you hire somebody, get technology that you don't have, but do the right things. This is not the time of saying, "Main kaisa taisa kar lega," because if you do kaisa taisa, this is the time you will get destroyed. So ego management, don't think you have it all. You don't, and nobody has it all. So what is missing? Go find that out and bridge the gap very quickly. Second thing is quick decision making. A lot of times people get into analysis paralysis. मैं सोच के बताता हूँ, क्या सोचने वाले हो पता ही नहीं है. So सोच के बताता हूँ is the most absurd statement that I've heard. You know, I often ask people कि exactly, and out of curiosity, कि आप exactly क्या सोचने वाले हो? And 90% of them, you know, have no clue of what they're going to think. They are simply delaying the decision in the hope that there will be a second option which is better than the first one. That delay is going to cost you, and it's going to cost you miserably right now. So I would suggest take a decision, even if it is wrong. You will at least know you had two options, you took the wrong one. Now you know that this is the right one. Not taking any decision is like staying there hoping for the gods to come and rain. That's not going to happen. So that's the last thing that I want to say when it comes to leadership skills. And in fact, there's one more that I thought of it right now. Monitoring. It's very important for you to monitor, because if you don't monitor, there is no way you will be able to identify risk and opportunity. They come because of monitoring. So this becomes your checklist. You should be taking this as your checklist, and every day you should be saying, okay, have I really done enough today to identify opportunities that are happening in my industry, in what I do? Have I identified any risk? Have I done enough to search for possible risk? Have I taken decisions, or are there pending decisions that I'm still not taking? You got to identify all of this. And this checklist is very, very value adding. It's simple, but it is very, very value adding. I would encourage you to do that. Now, if I go double click and go into granularities of things, then what is it that one must do? So there are points under that, and I would like you to write all of them. First one is forget the past. Now, when I say forget the past, the biggest question that has come to me, if you go onto my Facebook page, Facebook group that we started, there are about 1,000 people odd, if I'm not wrong right now. And I've been doing coaching calls for free where people call me with questions and I answer them. So you can listen to those calls. Maybe there are same questions that you have, and you can get your answers from there, and it's free. So one of the biggest questions that come to me is, what do I do with my outstanding? Forget it, is my genuine, honest answer. It's not going to come. So the more energies you waste on moving a wall that is not going to move, instead you put the same energies to construct the new. I'm not saying that stop it completely. I'm saying continue the follow-up the way you would otherwise do, but don't expect miracles to happen simply because you're following up. It's a mistake of the past. It's a loophole of your business model, which has come to life. You were not in the business of what you were selling. You were in the business of giving credit periods and discounts. You were selling that. You were not selling the product. So therefore the outstanding. Now there can be arguments, so uske bagair to survive hi nahi honge. Exactly, because your product has nothing unique. Your service has nothing unique. You never identified opportunities. So now it comes and bites you. So go focus on the new, focus on constructing a new model, a new way of doing business instead of running behind outstanding. Now, this is a sensitive one, the next one. Forget the past also means forget about the people that you've employed. Now, that I don't mean that start terminating everybody, but don't be in love. What I would say is you should recruit, reskill, and repeat. So recruit new talent wherever you require as per the current situation. If there are people that you know are going to suffer if you terminate them, get them reskilled as per the current situation. There are people in my team, who never used Facebook. Can you beat that? And these guys are people under the age of 30. But now they are on Facebook because we are on Facebook. That's my need. If you have to be in business, if you still continue to make monies and livelihood for your family, you got to reskill. I can support you on reskilling. But if you are not going to reskill because you think that nahi, ye to mere ko comfortable nahi lagta hai, then be comfortable without a job. So recruit the right people, reskill the people that are there for the kind of skills required, and repeat this process. But don't fall in love with the older skills just because that person has been with you for 25 years does not mean, because having that person on the team right now will possibly restrict or slow down your speed for the others who deserve a good speed. So take those calls. Don't fall in love. Forget the past. Don't fall in love with your company also. If you think this company is not worth its while, don't fall in love with it. Don't fall in love with your factory or your office. This is a time to go lean. This is a time to optimize. Tatas are not going to think, or Reliance is not going to think, or any of the big giants are going to see this as an opportunity. They will close down their offices and go lean. If they can do it, so can you. The only difference is we are too much sentimental when it comes to these things. So don't become sentimental. Take the call, go lean, go with options that you need. Take decisions, move ahead. Don't fall in love and don't retain things because of emotions to the past. Because it's like a bridge, and it's a broken bridge. So there's a gap in between. You got to jump from here to here. You got to lift your leg to have the other leg land here. You can't have your both legs on the bridge. You will fall down. So you have to leave the past to embrace the future. Otherwise, it's a challenge. The second thing is think of inherent skill to remodel your business. So a lot of people, they ask me these questions, right? So somebody asked me in the furniture manufacturing industry that, what, I make furnitures for the retail companies, which is, Lifestyle and all of those companies. What do I do now? Because they may not have their growth plans and they may not come up with newer showrooms. And if they don't come up with newer showrooms, how am I going to continue doing my business? So don't think that you are in the business of making retail showrooms. You got to think, what is it that you really know? You know wood very well, and you know the art of making something out of that wood. Just concentrate on that and think of application of wood furniture in the current context. Where is the application going to be? And start doing that. Maybe this person knows fabrication. If you know fabrication, start making beds. There are going to be all kinds of new requirements that are going to happen. There are companies, pharmaceutical companies, which may open up new laboratories. There will be furniture required there. Think of it that way. But the starting point is figure out what's your inherent skill. Now, there are going to be people whose current business is not simple to navigate and change the model on. But they're, for example, somebody who may say, I'm very good with people. I'm superb when it comes to people management. But my business is of jewelry. Now, what do I do with jewelry and people, right? Doesn't matter. Forget the old. Forget the fact that you've got to do something with jewelry. If you're good at people, concentrate on community building. This is the time when communities are required. I mentioned in the point 1. Focus on community building and then start that business. Because if you're good at that, then that is the business you must start. And you will see results coming on. That's the requirement. That's how you can use what you have got in the current context. If you are not somebody who's required in the current scheme of things, you will not be able to survive no matter what. Nobody is going to give you a magic pill. So forget the past, go with the new, think of your inherent skill that you have and transform your business if it's not very easy to modify, especially with the kind of businesses that you are in. Now, there are going to be waves of, one of the other questions that come to me is, when is my kind of business going to revive? And, the economists are saying V curve and W curve and L curve and all of that, right? I mean, what the hell do we make out of that as entrepreneurs? And why do I think that there's going to be a V curve or W curve or XYZ curve, right? I want to know when my business is going to recover. So the fact of the life is nobody knows when any business is going to recover. And that's the true answer. You can only have estimation. And this is the nearest logic that you can use to estimation. So the first businesses which are alive right now are essential services. The second businesses that are going to come alive, the second wave of businesses that are going to come alive are businesses that support the running of businesses that do essential products and services. So that's going to be the second wave. The third wave is going to be businesses which are going to support the businesses that support the essential services businesses. So now the nearer you are to the essential services and products business, that's how faster your business will revive. If you're a retailer, if you're a distributor, then you will really have to think hard whether your requirement is still valid or no in the supply chain. I put a question on my Facebook group, which Harsh apparently has answered, I guess. I don't remember your answer, Harsh, but the question was, would manufacturers go online? And the reason why I asked this question is because I had calls with about 4 or 5 manufacturers, all of them into B2C products, and they were talking to their wholesalers and retailers and also me, and we were wondering how this thing is going to happen. So the fact of the life is that if you have a wholesaler and a retailer selling to your end consumer, then your wholesaler is not going to buy from you. Your retailer is not going to buy from you because they have the stocks worth 2 months. Now, these 2 months worth of stock today has become 6 months. Why? Because nobody's going to buy that. So for 6 months, your retailer and wholesaler chain is going to not help you. So what are you going to do? Are you not going to start your factories for 6 months? Obviously not, right? So the only option that you will have is to go online and go straight to the consumer yourself. You won't be able to create new wholesalers and retailers because there is lack of cash. And in most cases, people create retailers and wholesalers to share risk. It's not to actually do sales. Sales happen because people come to the wholesalers and retailers buying the products that they want to buy. The retailers never go out selling the product. You go to any retail store, they will never tell you you should buy this and not that. They will only show it to you and you make a decision independently. So in that scenario, they are not going to be trading risk because they don't have money to trade risk. So if manufacturers go online, chances are that distributors and retailers will have to rethink their business completely because they will have a tough time fighting with the manufacturer. Manufacturer has the advantage of scale, has the advantage of money that earlier used to go as profits to wholesalers and retailers. So come nearest to the wave as possible, and that's how you will revive faster. The fourth point is collaborate and affiliate. Now, what I mean by that, you don't need to produce all the SKUs that you used to produce in the past. So if you used to do 100 SKUs because you had rights on that, does not mean you got to do all 100 today. Right now is the time to be like Arjun and look at the eye and aim just there. Be the best when it comes to getting clients for a small number of SKUs. For the rest of them, if the orders come, depend on your competitor. Collaborate with your competitor. Get them to manufacture. If you attempt to manufacture, then you will be spending your energies even on products that don't sell that much, or even the products that you don't have expertise on. So put your best foot forward. All your resources on only products that you are super good at, that you know you can sell it very well, and there is a natural demand. The rest of the products, collaborate with somebody. It's okay if the margin goes more thinner than that. You must protect your capital. Affiliate, which means if your products don't sell, somebody else's products are selling more, doesn't matter. Start selling those products. It's only sane as a business owner to do that. So don't hesitate to collaborate and affiliate. Now, collaboration has a very nice way of beating competition. So let's say Fauzia, who's my business partner, and me are not business partners, but are competitors. Now, I may go and pitch somebody or someone from you a sales training, and you may say, hey, you know what, I don't need sales training. I need to fix my inventory. Now, I know in the past I would have done inventory, but now I know I'm super good at sales. I'm not that great when it comes to inventory. I'd rather pass it on the inventory lead to Fauzia and ask her to do it. Now, what happens? Fauzia gets busy doing inventory and she does not get into doing sales, which is what I want to do. And then gives the sales lead to me, which means I stay in business, she stays in business, both are able to cut cost and both survive. So collaborate, don't hesitate to collaborate. Maybe add more services. Your strategy right now needs to be retain and upsell. So that's your strategy, which means if you can't get the market capturing done, then you will be having a tough time. So you got to capture the market. And if for that, to do that, if you got to reduce your margins, do that. Because you will get your margins when you upsell. So identify products which can get your foot in the door, quick sell, get the market in, and then build a retention model where you can upsell it. Various ways to do that. And for that, if you have to affiliate with somebody, please go ahead, do that. The last point here is think of new consumer behavior and therefore approach. Now, it's not true, it never was, that social media was for everybody. Even now, that's not true. For certain things, social media will still not work. People don't buy it that way. For certain other things, social media was always working, it will continue to work. Of course, there are cases where social media was working to an extent of 20-30%, now it's gone to 70%. That is true because it was working in the past. But don't just blindly adopt social media. Yes, you got to think digital, but you got to think how your customer is going to buy. If your customer is still in that first category where he thinks wait and watch, he's not going to buy from social media. So you got to think which customer segment and how is he behaving. And for that, you got to make calls to them. Try and understand how they are looking at the business. Don't try and sell it to them. This is the time for market research. Understand from them why they buy from you. How are they currently looking at the situation? What are their business plans? How is it going? Understand from them. And this is not going to happen on the first call also. You will need to do multiple calls to each person to understand this. Because on the first call, he will only agree to you and you will all have sob stories that will go on the call, right? You will say market bahut kharab hai. He will agree to you and both of you will feel very nice. Say, yes, mera bhi kharab hai, uska bhi kharab hai, to dono ka kharab hai, so it's okay. Somehow, psychologically we feel good when everybody is in the soup. Then we feel, okay, you know what, it's okay to be in the soup because sabka hai waise. So it is going to take you multiple calls to actually figure out how he is thinking and what his business plans are. His business plans is how, or his purchase plan is how your business needs to be structured today. And it's going to be different. So think of the new ways of consumer behavior and therefore your approach to reach them out. So in a nutshell, the ingredients to surviving an economic pandemic, which is already there in existence, but we are just hiding behind the curtain saying, पहले हम कोरोना से deal कर लेते हैं, and वो तरीका है lockdown. I don't know how that is dealing with corona. और फिर economic से deal करेंगे, because there is no answer to how you deal with economics. We are not a country, who has the kind of funds that we can give $1,000 to everybody per person like the US is doing. We are not that rich, which is why you don't have Nirmala Sitharaman coming out and giving any news in spite of so many days gone in. So the ingredients are, number one is mindset. If you're not in the right mindset, if you're stressed, then you won't be able to think on any of the points that I mentioned, because what I'm talking about is reinventing your entire business according to the current scenario. So mindset needs to be there. Second ingredient is money. That is very, very essential. You got to invest your money in the right places. Now I am using the word invest. I'm not using the word save, because that can have a completely different meaning to what we really want to do. Third is finding a market that you can really serve and that would justify your efforts. And the fourth one is a method to do this, because method is what will bring clarity and efficiency. If you are going to leak money right now and do it without a method, then it's going to be a reason for disaster. So you can't not have a method. So with these points, I would like to rest my talk right now, and I'm so happy that the internet didn't bless me once again. If you have questions pertaining to your business, I'd love to take them right now.
There are some questions on the chat already, Hardik. You may want to address them.
Okay. Okay. So the question from Harish Panchal is, Hardik, cash flow management for the next 6 months post-COVID. Can you share some light here? So Harish, like I mentioned, the easiest way to do this, don't get into a lot of analysis, because if you get into a lot of analysis, you're only going to be delaying the management part of your cash flow. Simple like Excel sheet low. Excel sheet may write down all the things, all the costs that you are incurring, and try and see which cost you really want, even right now. And you will see, ₹2 bhi hoga na, which you are spending, but you don't really need to spend right now. Remove that and take that decision of removing right now. But when you remove it, ask yourself this question: is this a part of my supply chain, as in whatever I do in my business? If that is, then don't remove it. Once you'll have all of these costs listed, then write down all your products just below it and write down the targeted sales that you can do on those products, and see if you're meeting your cost. Now, once you have this sheet ready, you got to review this sheet yourself and with your team. And this is not your question, but I'm telling you this. Review this sheet with yourself and your team at least once a week. Why you want to do this is because you want to let your team know this is the status of our company and this is what we need to pull it together. If this is not the time your team comes together with you, they will never be able to come with you. So don't hide it. If you have a bad decision to make, it will be far easier to make when you have to make it, assuming if at all, if all of this clarity is there. And this is the easiest way to go managing costs or cash flow. Don't deal with, don't give credit periods, give cash discounts to retain customers. Don't focus on products which are low profit and low in demand. Eradicate them. Collaborate for that with your competitors. If order aaya to unko de do, but you don't put your money there, because those are cash flow eating products. So that's what my suggestion is to you. Harsh, you were raising your hand. I guess you have a question.
Yeah, but I think you answered.
Thank you, Hardik. Thank you very much.
I think somewhere you answered my question.
Okay. Prakash, Rakesh Jaju, which soft skills would be helpful to retain clients? Rakesh, honestly, clients don't get retained because of soft skill unless you're in hospitality industry. So if you're a hotel, if you're a 5-star hotel, then I'd like to be in a hotel, where people talk to me nicely. But in your kind of business, people will not get retained because of soft skill. People will get retained because they need your product. They may say several things. So it's where I had a conversation with somebody who's into manufacturing of corrugated boxes, and he told me he lost a client, and he's in south of India, and he said he lost a client, but the client, when he spoke to, he said, I love the quality of your boxes. So if there is ever a requirement again, we will definitely buy from you, but for this time we cannot. And I asked him, what is the reason? He said, time. So I said, okay, so he was ready to compromise on quality for time, right? So he said, yes. Then I said, that means quality is not important to him. If you ask him, he will say that, but there is something else lying underneath that. See, I learned from my coach. I had a coach, his name is Fred Kaufman. And he always used to mention this, and you may want to write this down. This is very, very useful for people management also. He said, people never say things that they want. People always say things that they think will get them what they want. You see, now the reason why you're asking me this question also, because in your mind, probably you're thinking that soft skill is where your salespeople fail. You're not telling me how can I make my salespeople successful. You're telling me things that you think will get you the answer to what you want. The same is the case with your customer. The customer is going to buy your product when he needs it. If he doesn't need your product, your sales guy cannot talk good and sell the product. हाँ, इक्का दुक्का बिक जाएगा इधर उधर, वो बात अलग हो गई, but otherwise he cannot. Soft skill is like a fan in the house. When you take a house, you need a fan, right? Now having a fan doesn't make you happy, but not having a fan will disappoint you. So if the sales guys are going there and talking crap, then you're going to lose business. But if they talk good, that does not mean that you're going to add business. You see where I'm coming from? Yeah. Okay, so there's another question from Harsh again. So in my business, everyone is looking at the same service post-COVID, that is home deliveries and parcel services. I feel those who are already doing it will have an upper hand over me, who would be a late starter in the field. This is my fear, doubt, or if reality, how do I reality check? Okay, so Harsh, honestly, the reason why I come to you and would order a vada pav for my daughter's birthday is not because it's a vada pav. It's because the way you do it. The reason why every time we've had a new office inauguration, it is your team that we look up to, is not because because of the catering requirements. It's because you are doing the catering. So I come to you because of the finesse that you bring to the table. So if there are people who are going to appreciate that, they are still going to come to you, and they're going to be happy that you are available in spite of this, and that availability, you've made it easy by providing them the meals at home. What you really need to think on, Harsh, is you will definitely not have a lot of parties happening. And I believe that's the thing which your business would generate revenue from. So you really have to think hard on what are the essentials that you can provide to help people or families in the house. So I did see your post, and I even liked it, the Gujarati menu that you posted, the dhokla and all of that. So that's really nice. But instead of putting the menu up, which you can do even at a later stage, think of a message that you want to give to people who would want to have these dhoklas. So your message should be something around, okay, are you stressed and tired cooking at home when you never did in the past? Would you like to have a Sunday where your meal, which is as good as a 5-star hotel, is delivered at your home? And if that is the message that resonates, people will come to you for that. And also to answer the other piece of it, which is the early starters and stuff, Harsh, the business acumen, that will play a very, very big role right now. People who are not able to think what we are discussing right now will go out of business. So the market share that they used to capture before is going to come to you. the speed at which you are going to be able to execute the change, that is going to matter. See, people say Nokia went out of business because they could not think. No, that's not true. Nokia was able to think, but they were extremely poor at executing. When they were bringing the mobile phones which had brilliant features, in the same time, Chinese companies were bringing in 5 mobile phones and launching it. So they were too slow when it comes to execution. So even if you're same, how and what message do you give to people to attract them, and how quickly do you adopt to the changes, and how essential you become? That is what is going to determine how you succeed or survive or grow. I hope
Right.
that answers.
No, super realization.
Thank you, Chef. Hiren is raising his hand, so Hiren, please.
Okay, hi Hardik. So I must say, a very different perspective when you presented on lockdown. I think I haven't heard many people, talking from this approach, and I feel it is very practical the way you presented, and it looks like definitely it's a practical idea. So my question is that how do you see maybe 1 year down the line, 2 year down the line, based on your experience and your eyes, what you can foresee? Why I'm asking you so, because I'm into a digital business. We have launched a couple of products which is related to this time, doing great when it comes to business, but also need to have a practical idea. So we also discuss with people and gauge, what is happening, what will happen, but want to know your perspective.
So I'll give you the pointed answer to that, and then I'll give you the explanation behind that. So I don't know how is it going to look 1 year down the line, and if anybody who's going to tell you he knows, he's lying. And I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Now I'll tell you why I'm saying what I'm saying. For 2 reasons. I come from this Six Sigma background, right? So we used to create forecasting models for businesses which are pretty highly forecasted. For example, automobile companies, like I work for Chrysler. So the companies that make, let's say, bearings for a vehicle, they would know 3 to 6 months in advance that so many vehicles are going to be booked and so many vehicles are going to be required. And it comes right from the bottom of the supply chain. So it's very easy to estimate, and therefore plan your production, keeping in mind what the end result is going to be. But I can tell you, when we used to do statistical forecasting ka training, this was my first slide. And I use that statement also in the webinar right now, that when it comes to forecasting, only 2 things are true. 1, you are lucky. 2, you are wrong. Okay, so only astrologers can predict what it's going to look 1 year down the line. What we really need to think of is a different kind of leadership, and that I call it war leadership. So it's very different from a peace leader. A peace leader is somebody who thinks that everything is going to remain the way it is, and therefore I will predict the near future will be thoda bahut different from the current situation. But this is a war time happening. Every day the situations are changing. Here the peace leader will fail. Here the war leader will succeed. And what does a war leader do? A war leader plans a skeleton and then executes within that skeleton. So you create a framework, and then you keep changing as every fire is fired at your soldiers. So you're very adaptive. You change every single day. You remain fragile, you remain adaptive, and you change as situations move. You keep your eyes and ears open. You see what is happening around. Your monitoring has to be at high. Your risk identification has to be high. Your opportunity identification has to be high. And you should be very quick to mobilize your soldiers in the battleground. That's the sign of a war leader. So right now we can see only so much. Plan for that much, execute it. Once you reach there, you will see a little more. Plan for that, execute. You see a little more. Plan for, and that is one of the reasons why you should form and be a part of this forum. Because when you think, you will think in one way, and you need people to blow your plan. You need people to poke holes in your plan and tell you how you are wrong. Because a solid plan is only that much solid, until the first punch in the face. So you got to be taking all of those punches, and this is the ground, the group that you guys have. this is that ground where you can validate your idea. We are launching something called as Propel Boards. We used to do it for our clients earlier. Now we are rolling it out for everybody. And in the Propel Board, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have people come up, ask questions. And you know what? Everybody has an advice for everybody else. Only few people who are as lucky as I am to get paid for it. But everybody has an advice for somebody else. If Harsh has a problem, I'm sure you have a solution to that. But the problem is that Harsh will not have a solution for himself, because he's looking at all the possible constraints and his mind is clouded because he's in his business. Same is the case with me. If I need a solution, I need somebody else to tell me. So now this needs to be facilitated. It cannot be without any head. So while you have a group, I don't know if there is a structure like that, but I would want this group to, I would encourage this group to have one leader who all of you trust to take the final call, because democracy never works in such situation. Imagine a war where a battalion goes on the war field and it's democratic. You know, nobody can order anybody. Everybody has to sit, decide ke kaun fire karega. You are definitely going to lose the war, because that makes you slow. You know, in the corporate world, we used to say, if you don't want a solution to the problem, form a committee. The only thing that will happen is you will consume coffee. So have one leader who drives it through, but use the power of collective wisdom. That's what I would suggest. And don't worry about 1 year and 2 years down the line. We never could know that. I mean, if we knew, just ask yourself this: did you ever have 1 year plan and 1 year pointed goals? We never had. Every entrepreneur that I've worked with as my client or as my prospect, I've asked them, what is your 1 year goal, just for the fun of it? And nobody was able to tell me. They tell me numbers because I asked them the question. So the number pops in their head because the question was asked. It's not there. None of us have 1 year projection.
Sure. So are you suggesting to take a short-term decision, especially when it comes to investment?
So I'm saying create a skeleton. So you should have boundaries. For example, sorry, Hiren, can I ask you what your business is again?
So we are a tech service provider for healthcare organizations. So we are software and hardware-based solution, and we have launched something called as a virtual representative platform, where we believe that it might disrupt the industry, where representative will call doctor on our platform. Now that requires significant amount of investment. At the same time, if this works, this is going to be only platform available. So our team was working since last 30 days and we are able to launch something as a prototype, getting good response. But now it's a time to invest. So far it was all in-house development.
Yeah. So this is how I see it, Hiren. I was a part of TIE, the Indus Entrepreneur, and I've seen a lot of people have, investment pitches and stuff like that. This is what my learning has been. A business gets invested into when the business does not need any money. So if your idea is genuinely good, and it from what you say, it sounds like an idea in the essential times, because now people don't want to go to fever clinics because of the fear of going out and stuff like that. So if your idea is genuinely good, you will have takers right now. And if you go to Arogya Setu app, now it shows you in 1 kilometer how many people are sick. Correct. So if you can figure out if your app idea or your platform idea is good, then you can probably collaborate with Arogya Setu and say, these are people who are identifying themselves as sick. I can help them treat at home. And you don't need any investments. If you need to do further development, I would suggest you don't invest into it. Collaborate with other developers that are there around. There are a lot of them who must have lost projects right now. Collaborate with them. They would come to you at a price which is reasonable. You don't increase your capital expenditure, and you get your product developed. So that's what I would suggest. Like I said, forget the old ways of doing it, Hiren. You want to protect every single rupee that you spend on new things, and you want to make sure that it's spent in the right thing. So the first thing that every one of us must think is, if we want to expand anything, can I have a collaborative partner do it? If the answer to that is yes, that should be my first option.
Sure.
Because if it doesn't work, I have my capital gone, which is like gold right now. Yeah.
Sure.
So I
Shivani
have
has a
one
question.
more-
She has raised her hand.
Yeah. Yes, Shivani.
Yeah. Hello, Hardik. Sorry, can you
Hi.
hear me clearly now?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Great. So Hardik, what would be one piece of, or rather one business process which you think would be a red flag for a distribution channel? As I said, we are distributors of industrial fasteners. And of course, a lot of things are on hold. There is a lot of business inquiry that's been floating at this point in time, but of course, there's no dispatch happening per se. So what is it as a part of, what sort of processes or systems, I mean, the subject, that we were discussing some time back, as far as the fasteners company is concerned, what sort of process or system would you think should raise a red flag for an entrepreneur at this point in time?
So I did you hear my suggestion on distribution businesses and the challenges?
No.
No.
I mean, I was
Okay.
all through the call, I must have skipped it, that part. Yeah.
Okay. So distribution guys will have a problem, because if you are not able to consume or sell whatever you have in stock right now from your manufacturers, you are not going to put another order. And if you're not going to put another order, the manufacturer is not going to stay and wait for you to place another order for your region.
Yeah.
So the manufacturer is going to try and go to your customers straight.
Okay.
Because that's what manufacturers do, right? They appoint more distributors, they appoint more
Yes.
retailers. Now, if they can't appoint all of that, they will have a choice. They will say, okay, let me go online and fetch them, give them the orders. So right now, for a distributor, you should, and who's doing industrial fasteners, you may want to list down industries which are essential industries, or people who are providing things to essential industries where these fasteners are required. The second thing that you must do is you must start reaching out to them on LinkedIn, because I'm assuming you are dealing with the purchase guys in those companies, right?
True.
Correct. So you should reach out to them on LinkedIn, and you should make their buying process very, very easy.
Okay.
So, because the only differentiation between why somebody would purchase from you the product that he can purchase from the manufacturer is going to be two things. Number one, oh, it's easy to buy from Shivani instead of buying it from, let's say, Harsh. Sorry, I'm picking you up on this. But let's say Harsh is a manufacturer. I may say, oh, you know what? He is a manufacturer. So I want Harsh's product. But if I buy it from Harsh, it's very cumbersome. But if I buy it from Shivani, it's very easy for me to buy it. So make it easy to buy by providing options that you can provide. Maybe do an e-commerce website, maybe whatever. I mean, make it easy. The second thing is supply chain is a very big problem. It is going to be a problem not only for you, it's going to be a problem for manufacturers also. Order le liya, bhejenge kaise? So go hyper niche. When I say hyper niche means think of geographies that you can supply with minimum disruption.
Okay.
I don't know what your geographical limits are, but let's say you have a city or you have a district that you supply to, assuming, then focus on a city. If you have a city that you're supplying, then focus on a locality. So go that way, go narrow, and figure out a logistics partner who can supply in that region. And वो region के अंदर जितने भी industries हैं जो fasteners लेते हैं, all of them should be buying from you.
Okay.
So go hyper niche, and that will be your USP for manufacturers to even continue with that, because they won't be able to enter the market because you are the best provider when it comes to supply chain and ease of buying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for that, and apologies for skipping the point here.
No worries. No worries. Cool. So I think we have more questions. If not, then we'll conclude the session. Over to you, Harsh. Thank you very much for having me.